5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to a very special, or should I say specialissimo edition of TrojanVision's The Week That Was, where we'll actually be talking about 2 weeks that were spent in Italy. And joining me on the show is Robbyn Taylor, a lecturer in the Hall School of Journalism and Communication, and Brady Talbert, a Hall School student who is also the student news director here at TrojanVision. And I want to thank you both for joining us on this special edition, because we're going to be talking about this trip to Italy that was a part of the Summer Arts Academy, which was an overall goal of the Communication and Fine Arts to open some new perspectives for students out there. First of all, Robbyn, tell us a little about the Arts Academy, then we'll get to y'all's specific involvement in there. So.
Sure. The Summer Arts Academy was a pilot program. Last summer, we took about 5 separate trips, the College of Communication and Fine Arts did, to Italy, and came up with the idea that this would be a great place for us to have kind of a summer home. We could take our students, everything could be done kind of organically. We could all find something to do in Italy. So we really created a home away from home for our Troy students, lived in this small town, Pietrasanta, and really just did immersive work for anything from dance. There were 7 programs that attended, so our dancers were dancing in the streets, musical theater was performing, journalism, Brady and our other journalism students were out covering Troy's efforts, so it was really a neat experience to see them working in their respective careers away.
And we're going to see a lot of those different elements throughout the stories we're going to see today, but the main thing, the focus is the stories that were done by students, folks like you, Brady, that were over there. And talk a little bit about just the opportunity to get this real world experience, international reporting over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So like obviously I can provide the student perspective. First of all, just from a traveling perspective, like I've never been to Europe. You know, Italy was it was a really amazing place, and it still feels surreal to look back on it. But much less, cover international stories over there was like, I felt like I was a little news correspondent overseas or something, but it was really cool. Like I can add that to my resume and like show potential people that would hire me, like, hey, I can do this. This is something I was able to do, and I was able to do it through Troy University.
Now, one of the interesting things is Brady was definitely the most experienced person that was on the trip, and that's part of the interesting thing about this, and we're going to see this, that the majority of the stories we're going to watch on this program were done by people who had little to no experience. They got thrown in. I helped out with this. We gave them a boot camp one Friday and sent them to Italy, but the product, it turned out to be fairly impressive for some people who had almost no experience. That's part of the immersive part of this program, I would think, that helped them do this. So.
Yes, they got into it. They started feeling, they were nervous at first, not having a lot of hands-on experience with cameras and editing equipment, but then they started meeting people and wanting to tell their stories. And so that creativity came out, and they started seeing how the pieces fit together. And I was really proud of the work that they did. Brady did some excellent advanced things, and some other students were able to work on some core skills, and really good stuff came out of it.
Well, speaking of good stuff, let's see, I guess, the introductory story, which I got to say was an interesting experience. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later, about getting that story from Italy to us on the air.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're going to take a look now at Brady's first story, the overall introduction to the Italy Arts Academy.
Pietrasanta, Italy is picturesque, to say the least. Life moves slower in the city, and locals can be seen out and about walking alongside bicycles, sitting at cafes, and shopping for produce. The city is recognized for its marble, which can be found in its architecture, and for its art pieces that create a vivid downtown. Here in Pietrasanta, Italy, the rich Italian culture of the northern Tuscany region collides with the talents of some foreign visitors, some of whom you may recognize. Some Troy University students are spending part of their summer studying abroad in Italy. Programs from the College of Communication and Fine Arts are using what the country has to offer to broaden their view of the world.
Every day there's something happening, and being immersed in this sort of cultural home here in the heart of Tuscany I think provides students the opportunity for lots of different types of exploration.
Students studying English, creative writing, theater, art, journalism, music industry, dance, and graphic design are using the city to hone their skills.
We started about 3 or 4 months ago.
Graphic design students were responsible for designing the marketing material for the city's dance and art festival, the DAP Festival, which will also feature students. I am now at the Gent Culturale, which is the city's cultural center. And you don't have to go far to stumble upon some dancers, you just have to follow the music. A ballet studio where toes are pointed and the room is alive with energy. Just another art form here in Pietrasanta.
Just like walking around, everything is art, like just the building, like looking up the windows and the arches, and it's truly inspiring. And I feel like I can apply it to my dancing because I feel so inspired by the art around me that I get to create art in the studio.
With instructors and students from across the world, dancers must overcome a communication barrier. But one performer says dance helps bridge that gap.
So it's hard to communicate with them, but through dance we have one language that's French. So we're able to communicate more through dance than anything.
Students will perform in Pietrasanta from June 26th to the 29th. But until then, they'll just have to continue to see what this Italian coastal city has to offer. In Pietrasanta, Italy, Brady, Talbert, TrojanVision News.
Good work, Brady. But before we move into the next story, I do want to talk a little bit about some behind-the-scenes stuff. That story, this is part of the real-world experience that the students got. Brady was sending that story to us via the internet to go on our newscast.
Yes.
And it was supposed to air on a 5 o'clock show. And this is kind of a stressful situation because Brady was wrapping that story up. And I think on this end, I think it was about 5:15. The story started downloading.
It was like 12 at night.
It was pretty good. It was midnight your time and our time. And in a course of about maybe 10 minutes, we downloaded it from the other side of the world, got it to a drive, got it on our computer, and made it live on the air at 5 o'clock.
And I watched it live.
And then you watched it live because, well, obviously you were up because you sent it to us before the show. But that was part of the real world educational experience. That's some of the kind of stuff that you may get into in the future.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting time for both of us on both sides of the planet.
I loved it. It was funny.
It was exciting. But talking about part of what was in that story there, and you mentioned there about the graphic design. And the next story we're going to talk about is graphic design, but also another one of these elements where a student did not have a lot of experience. So.
Right, Mackenzie Daly was the reporter on this, and she did a great job, and she took special interest in it because she's also a graphic design student. So she's working on advertising, public relations things, and besides this class where she was working on television production, she was also studying advertising media planning and working with companies there in Pietrasanta to build an advertising plan for them. So she was kind of doing double duty there, but she was really interested in covering this story because of her desire to be a graphic designer.
And we're going to see one of the graphic design students who are participating in Italy through this story. Let's take a look.
Italy is currently Troy University's home away from home for students a part of the Summer Arts Academy in Pietrasanta. This gives Troy students the opportunity to take classes and explore the city for weeks out of the summer.
Because of where we're staying, David and I have bikes that we ride in and out of the city. And I think that staying here for 2 weeks, that means that I kind of get used to the city. I have to do a commute and I have to learn it and know the city.
If you take a look around, it's not hard to run into posters for the DAP Festival. Our Troy University graphic design students have been working hard on these designs, which are displayed all over the city.
My team and I have been working on all the graphics for the DAP Festival, so we've been doing posters and badges, billboards, mini posters for each performance for social media.
While Chloe Lyle focuses on graphics and photography this trip, she was able to travel to China earlier this year through Troy's Confucius Institute.
I think something that Troy is really good at is providing opportunities for students to study abroad, study in cultures that they wouldn't have been able to before. And so I think that Pietrasanta and everything happening here, it's really cool because there are so many programs that are coming here. It's not just one specific program, but like a lot of them.
If you're interested in learning more about your opportunity to study abroad, visit Troy University's official website for more information. In Pietrasanta, Mackenzie Daly, TrojanVision News.
Once again, a story done by a student with relative level of inexperience there, but a little bit more information you want to tell about the subject of that story, and all about this Summer Arts Academy experience,
Right.
Some real world experience from the subject of that story, right?
Right. Chloe Lyle, who also is the photography editor for our student newspaper, the Metropolitan, she was actually able to work on a photography internship while she was over there as well. So she was doing graphic design, photography internship, taking pictures for the student publications back home. So lots of immersive learning.
Lots of good opportunities there. And now we're gonna shift into from some of the educational portion to the performance intensive part of this. And this next one shows one of the opportunities where looked like probably one of the more fun events, two of the more fun events that we saw stories of. But this one just taking pure rock and roll to Italy, right?
Yeah, and what was fun about it was this story is about Populous, and so as Populous started to play, it was an enclosed area, but almost like a courtyard with an open ceiling. There was nothing, so the music just radiated out into the town. And what started as a good crowd turned into a larger and larger crowd, and people are dancing to Earth, Wind, and Fire being played as Populous is performing. So it's a really neat experience to see all these local Italians come in and just kind of follow the music to Populous and dance and join in.
So was it fun, Brady?
Absolutely. Like even if we weren't covering the stories, obviously we were there. And like it was so interesting. Like they were playing like all American music, all different types of American styles, like jazz, like rap, like all kinds. Like nothing was off.
And everybody's on their feet having
yeah,
a good
and
time.
it was like both Americans and Italians like jamming out to like Elvis and stuff. Like it was really cool. Like,
well, let's take a look at it. Allison Woodfin has a story on Populous and their concert in Italy.
Made up of students from all over campus, from guitarists to rappers to singers to dancers. Troy University's Populous headed to Pietrasanta, Italy to perform internationally for the first time.
Songwriting, for me at least, I have to have inspiration, and so I try my best to be able to be super direct with it, but sometimes it's a little difficult at times trying to get inspiration when it's not necessarily there, but it's actually a really good learning experience. You have to force that sometimes and still be able to come up with something that's worth listening to.
The band has never performed on foreign soil, so this is a first.
This is Europe, and I've never been across that water before, so this is really exciting for me, and I'm blessed with this opportunity.
This is an unbelievable opportunity for our students, particularly in our music and entertainment industries. We're preparing students, we're preparing artists, songwriters, producers, audio engineers to actually go out and work in meaningful careers in America's biggest global business, and that's American music and entertainment. And so now, for the first time, here we are, we've got Troy University students playing all forms of popular music, from hip-hop to rock, okay, from R&B to country, you name it, we're doing it.
Populous played some of the greatest hits from throughout the decades that no matter who or where you were from, you can enjoy at least a song or two.
In Pietrasanta, Italy, Allison Woodfin, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Definitely like fun, a little bit of rock and roll in Italy, but the music went on for another fun opportunity. All of us here in Troy, a lot of us got to see Mamma Mia here in Troy, but the show literally on the road in Italy. So this next story is a pretty fun idea of taking and having a flash mob of sorts of Mamma Mia out there. Talk about kind of how this all built up and what we're going to see in the story.
Sure. Part of the dance festival the dancers were taking part in included basically flash mobs. They called them invasions while we were there. So it was scheduled but unscheduled. times where students would come out and take over the square and perform. So the story that we're going to watch is about the musical theater students, and while not everybody could travel and they couldn't really perform Mamma Mia in this town square, they went over and did songs from ABBA. So it was a wonderful experience to watch them. It was I think it was one of my favorite things, but to see our students start coming out and hear music being played, and Populous played with them for this, and they start coming out and dancing and singing, and it was in this little town square, and so there were cafes and restaurants and little shopping areas around there, and everyone just kind of flocked to the middle and started dancing with our students, which is really a neat experience to see our Troy students singing, ABBA over there, and having, it didn't matter if the locals understood the language or not. We could still hear them singing Mamma Mia throughout the street afterwards.
So a fun experience, and including someone very important to the university out there dancing as well, which we'll see here at the end of the story. Well, here's Sierra Lewis giving us a look at Mamma Mia in Italy.
Mamma Mia, here they go again. Troy University Theater Department earned bravos for their work bringing Mamma Mia to the stage, but this time in a whole new setting and in a whole new country. DAP festivals call it an invasion, something reminiscent of a flash mob. Performers take over the piazza for a surprise performance.
Normally, theater students are performing in the theater, but here in Pietrasanta, they're switching the stage for the downtown square.
Not only is performing off the stage different for Troy students, the preparation for the show has been a challenge. They also had to perform in the midst of tourists, locals, and bike riders. Performing at the square is what makes this performance so unique, but Madeline Hill expressed the most difficult parts of the scenery change.
The stairs are actually almost always full of people sitting down, relaxing, and so I think it'll be interesting maneuvering around that and figuring out how to deal with that. And I like that it's outside because it's different, and I feel like people will, be interested and they'll flock to it. That's what we're hoping,
Even though it takes a lot of work to make this happen, many students are taking advantage of this life-changing opportunity.
Actually, this past semester was my first semester at Troy, so I never thought that I would be studying abroad this early at a new school because I transferred here. But this means a lot to me just because I love musical theater and love performing and getting the opportunity to perform it for people that are in a totally different country, speaking a totally different language, and people have different perspectives on things. I think it's very interesting, and can't wait to perform it for them.
The theater department previously did 3 sold-out shows on Troy campus for Mamma Mia, and now citizens of Pietrasanta have a taste of Troy. In Pietrasanta, Italy, Sierra Lewis, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Well, now we've got an opportunity from dancing in the streets to dancing with a world-renowned ballerina. So Mary Brunson's going to tell us a little about this, but tell us a little about this opportunity they had here in Italy. So
very few students got chosen for this. It was an invite-only class, and we had several Troy University students. This ballerina she had danced with the Royal Ballet Company, so it was really an honor for our students to be able to take part in these workshops with her.
Well, we're going to hear what type of honor it was from the students themselves in the story from Mary Brunson.
Toes pointed and at the ready. Dressed in leotards and large smiles, Troy University dancers were excited to learn from Maria Ketchikova, who is a native of Moscow, Russia, previously performing for the Royal Ballet.
4 Troy University dancers were selected to participate in Maria Ketchikova's morning ballet class. The dancers were quite appreciative of the opportunity they had been given.
Ketchikova is an amazing dancer, and it's just such an honor we were chosen to take her class, and so I feel very honored to be able to be a part of that experience.
It was definitely challenging. It was different than any other ballet class I've taken before because everybody has their kind of different styles and techniques of teaching, so I'll definitely take some of the corrections that she made today and apply it in every class that I take at Troy.
In addition to performing with a world-recognized ballerina, students were also honored to represent Troy University.
I'm so grateful. It was an amazing class, and I probably would have never had this opportunity if it weren't for Audria and Corinne and everyone here at the DAP Festival and at Troy University for helping us, achieve our dreams and perform abroad. It's an amazing opportunity.
In Pietrasanta, Italy, Mary Brunston, Troy TrojanVision News.
Now there, the students were learning how to dance from a world-renowned ballerina, but this next story is an opportunity for our art students to learn about, probably one of the most famous materials used to make art in that marble. So tell us about how this experience all came about, because I know this is something that was on the mind of, I know Mrs. Hawkins, who was on the trip, wanted students to get an opportunity to see things like this.
Yes, and the area where we were, it was sandwiched between the sea and the Alps. And these beautiful Alps looked like they had snow on top of them, but it really wasn't snow. Part of it was marble. So Pietrasanta was known for the marble. Michelangelo actually would gather his marble from Pietrasanta. So it was a really neat opportunity for some of our art students who were interested in sculpting to be able to go and visit a foundry in Pietrasanta. And so we were able to go and explore this foundry as well. And I think Allison Woodfin did this story, and it was really interesting because it kind of just fell in her lap. She got a call that Mrs. Hawkins had said, this opportunity is available, can you go? So we found transportation really quickly and scrambled to get there. But it was one of the neatest experiences.
Some of that real world experience of a story coming right there for you and jumping right on it. And seeing the students getting a chance to get hands-on experience with some famous art material there. Yes. Let's take a look at this story Allison Woodfin put together on Italian marble.
While in Pietrasanta, Italy, Troy University art students took a trip to a local marble foundry to work hands-on with the natural material.
Working marble, it's easy, but in some ways not easy, just because you need the system is easy because just take a hammer and break, so it's easy, but needs lots of practice of do that. So need years and years to practice to cut the marble, because when you break the marble you can go back, you can undo. There is no Control Z. Yeah.
Foundry owner Nicola Stighetti explained how his mistake was the students' golden opportunity.
The story of this work is that I did wrong. So I did wrong because when we start and then we noticed that it's too little. So we did wrong the size. So we did again another copy for the client. And this remained here. But then the Troy University say to me, please show how you cut, how you work at the students. So we had a class here one day, all the people around, and I explain how we work in marble.
Stighetti takes pride in the foundry and its work, as it has been in his family for many generations, so mentoring aspiring students was a privilege.
Because people can understand the little trick of the artisan. So this is good, and because most of the people see the finished work, but they don't know about the story to bring one thing at the end.
In Pietrasanta, Italy, Allison Woodfin, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Now, once again, dealing with artwork in the same area, the story we're about to see, and this also has an element related to Troy because it's a piece of artwork by Null. Our International Art Center features something that came from this foundry in this next story, but once again, similar opportunity to the last story we just saw. So
right, and both of these foundries, this marble foundry and the and where the peace frame and the peace dove were created, were in the same little artist complex. They were right across from each other, so that was really neat. In fact, the gentleman that you saw in the last story helped with translation for the story that you're about to show everyone. And it was really neat for the students to be able to see this creation by someone that we're very familiar with, Null Hollis. So
And this frame that you're going to see in the story, if you've ever seen one of his pieces, is a giant frame similar to what is on his artwork that you would see in the International Art Center here at Troy. So,
right, and people can stand it and take pictures. You can take a picture from a distance and it looks like it's framing this cute little street in Pietrasanta. So to be able to go and see where that was created, and also where the Peace Dove, which is here on our campus, was created, was a really unique opportunity for our students.
well, let's take a look at the piece frame itself and the place where it was created. Another story from Allison Woodfin.
In the heart of Pietrasanta is the Peace Frame by Noel Hollis. Each day, locals pass by the frame or even through it on their way to their favorite shops. Some stop to take in the beauty of the frame itself. We took a trip to the family-owned foundry that constructed the Peace Frame 13 years ago. The foundry is owned by Franco Luculini and his two brothers. He recalled constructing the Peace Frame in 2006 in a 5-month time period.
5 months is very difficult because the time is short.
Luculini explained the process of molding the cast to heating and pouring the bronze, all the way to letting the bronze cool and set. The process is one that takes time and special attention to the small details, as every little bit matters. He explained to us that the foundry had been in operation for over 40 years. They specialize in small pieces and large pieces, such as the Peace Frame itself. Luculini said you can find the foundry's work all over, from Italy to Las Vegas, Nevada, here in the United States. In Troy, we can find a piece of the foundry's work as well, as the Peace Dove by Noel Hollis on Troy University's campus was constructed at this very foundry.
In Pietrasanta, Italy, Allison Woodfin, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Now we're going to wrap it up with the story that you did, the last story you did there, Brady. Just tell us about this opportunity you had here. So.
Yeah, so to go alongside the DAP Festival, there was a gala the last night, just to kind of wrap things up, both in Italy, but also with the festival going on. And as you're going to see, there's some like very interesting visuals, and it was really a cool experience, and like it's really beautiful.
Well, let's take a look at the wrap-up DAP Festival Gala from Brady.
Swinging from silks on a stage, dancers at the 2019 Dance and Art Festival, known as the DAP Festival, used vivid colors and delicately choreographed motions to entertain audience members in Pietrasanta, Italy. The performance was just one of many to take the stage at the June 29th DAP Festival Gala, a night much like the Silks dancers intertwined to wrap up the festival, which Troy University dance and theater students attended to hone their skills.
Being here in this arts-rich and culturally rich part of Italy, I think the students have an opportunity to engage with fine and performing arts regularly here. Every day there's something happening.
Alongside performers from Italy, Russia, Denmark, and Sweden, Troy University students had the chance to perform an out-of-the-box and modern dance, which featured the whispers of each language represented on the stage. The night also featured more traditional styles, such as ballet. The gala put a cap on the DAP Festival, which was also the festival that started Troy University's trek to Italy a couple years back.
This began 2 years ago with the DAP Festival in Pietrasanta. We sent a group of dancers and some theater students to investigate other opportunities. Last year we brought 31 Troy students from music and theater and dance, so expanded a little further. And then this year is when Dr. and Mrs. Hawkins had the vision to expand for a Troy-centric summer arts academy, exchanging with the Pietrasanta community.
Alongside the Troy dancers in this year's DAP Festival, Troy University students studying English, creative writing, theater, art, journalism, music industry, and graphic design also made the journey to Italy, which will not be a last for the Summer Arts Academy. Legend has it that if you throw a coin in Trevi Fountain, you will return to Italy, just like the hopeful Summer Arts program at Troy University. When in Rome, Brady, Talbert, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Ending there at Trevi Fountain, an opportunity you got to do.
You have to.
You have to do it. But talk a little bit as we're wrapping up the international reporting experience and what it meant to you, Brady.
Yeah, like it was such a cool. Like, I really hope I get to do it again somewhere. Maybe in Italy next year. But some point in my life, I want to do international reporting again. It was just such a unique experience, both like interacting with people who like don't speak your language, like it's humbling, like just to get a perspective of what other people see, like when they're in the United States and they might not speak English, but also like just like doing what I've studied to do like somewhere else in an unfamiliar place and getting accustomed to it. It was just so unique and I really loved it.
And once again, you said maybe next year. This is something that it's going to be an ongoing thing, and I know you're going to try to get back there again next year.
Yes, we hope to go back, hope to take more students, do more reporting. Maybe Brady will go again. That's my hope. But it was one of the things that was neat to watch Brady and the other students do was figure things out on their own.
Yeah. So. Well, here's hoping we see more of that figuring things out as you make the return trip to Italy. I want to thank both of you for joining here, and for you, thanks for joining us.